Hey, fellas, we are back. It is day 11 of the Warrior Redemption beta program. Last couple of days, we've been working on identifying those thoughts that are not serving us, those lies perhaps that we've embraced in our lives. But I want to actually step back here today and introduce a concept that I think if you're struggling with those two lessons there and those two activities, I want to introduce something that's probably going to help us out a little bit and better understanding how all of these different things, the thoughts, the feelings, the actions, results, all these different things interact with one another, okay? Remember, I want to return to this reality that the body makes visible the invisible reality of what's going on in the invisible world in our thoughts and in our spirits here. And so this cycle I want to talk to you about, I want to share with you what I call the T.F.A.R cycle. It really explains what that process looks like of making visible through our bodies the invisible reality of what's going on in our minds and in our spirits here. Okay. So we've got our T.F.A.R cycle: thoughts, feelings, actions, and results. T.F.A.R, T-F-A.R, thoughts, feeling, actions, and results. So what takes place in the body when we have a thought? Okay. Well, there's actually a new neuron, a new neural connection that is firing, starting to wire two different neurons in our brains when that's happening. So we see a thought which kind of lives in the abstract becoming physical, something that we can actually observe in the here and now, especially with the brain scan technology that we have and the SPECT scans. We can actually see a thought coming to life and manifesting in our brain, okay? And so we're already seeing the invisible becoming visible here by our ability to be able to look at these different images of the brain. So what happens next? So those thoughts are going to need to communicate with the rest of the body, right? To become manifest in the rest of the body. And the way that it does this is by means of neurotransmitters, neuropeptides, and hormones. Each one of those things are chemical messengers in the body, and what they're doing is they're linking up our nervous system with the different endocrine systems and different glandular systems here in our bodies. Okay, so those neurotransmitters, those neuropeptides will actually send a signal down to our different glandular systems. It'll merge with the cells in those glands, right? And those glands will then, once those neuropeptides actually link up with those cells, will actually start to produce hormones. Chemicals will be released into our body by our glands. We're aware of this. When we become aware of the chemicals in our body, the conscious awareness of those chemicals being released in our body, we know as feelings, right? So think of your feelings as the conscious awareness of the chemical processes that are being released in your body. Where did they begin? They began first with those thoughts. Those thoughts, neurotransmitters and neuropeptides, come down, they impact the glands. The glands release hormones. Our awareness of the hormones being released in our body, those are our feelings. Okay? So the feelings then are going to influence the way that we act and the way that we behave. Right? We know this. When somebody's in a bad mood, they've got bad chemicals being released in their body, they're going to be cranky, right? When somebody's happy, they've got lots of serotonin that's been released in their body, that happy chemical. They are going to feel happy, right? They're going to act happy. They're going to have a smile on their face. And the way that we act and behave is going to, and the way that we influence our environment, that's the people around us, that's the circumstances around us, which could be our physical environment, or again, people or different moods around us, are going to produce something that we can observe. A result is going to come forth from that. And that result is going to be some more information that we can observe, and then we can start to think more thoughts about the result that we see. And those thoughts are going to kick off more feelings. Feelings change our behaviors. Our behavior is going to impact our results, and we get that nice T.F.A.R cycle that's there. But there's actually cycles within the T.F.A.R cycle here as well. And I don't want to get into all of them because it's a lot of information, but one of them is there's actually a cycle just between the T and the F, the way that the thoughts and the feelings, those chemical responses, can actually go back and impact the way that we think. Okay, so if we think a new thought, it kicks off that chemical response in our body. Our body is going to transmit back to our brain, hey, this is how the body feels, so create some more thoughts that are going to reinforce what I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling in the body. So we can get this TF, thought feeling cycle, that can be reinforcing there as well, which is pretty fascinating. And this is kind of where we start to experience that daydreaming effect, right? Where time just passes. We're kind of getting caught in that TF cycle in our minds and our bodies, as our minds and our bodies are going back and forth. And these can be very creative places. If you're producing those good thoughts and good feelings that again, we want to be daydreaming about our super unknown goal here, fellows. There's a lot of transformation that can take place there. Where's the greatest lever point in this T.F.A.R cycle? Okay, I would say it's at the place of thought, and that's why we did so many exercises last week about introducing new thoughts and doing it over and over and over again through constant spaced repetition, because we don't want it just to be in our conscious mind. We want it to actually migrate down to our subconscious mind. My board almost blew over here. I want it to migrate down to our subconscious mind, so that's where the majority of our decisions are being made, right? Remember going back to those 35,000 decisions, per even up to 65, 70,000 decisions that are being made every day. I know I'm not conscious of all those decisions that I'm making. The vast majority of those systems, I've heard people say 90 to 95% are being made on the subconscious level. So we want 90 to 95% of our decisions to be moving us towards our super unknown goal. Then we have to make that help through that space repetition. We have to make the journey from our conscious mind to our subconscious mind here. And we're using that T.F.A.R cycle then to be working with us, moving us towards that super unknown goal. But the will that we have, the will to be able to think what we want to think, the will to be able to choose not to believe those lies when our trauma introduces or our circumstances introduce thoughts to our mind, the choice not to believe thoughts or even reinforce negative TF cycle patterns, negative thought feeling cycle patterns that aren't serving us, right? We always have the ability through our will to step into the T.F.A.R cycle and choose what we are going to think. And to the extent that we can become aware of this T.F.A.R cycle and how it's working in our bodies and in our minds, we can become aware of are better aware of identifying those thoughts that are not serving us and jump in there sooner. The sooner we can jump in and identify a thought that isn't serving us, or a belief that is not serving us, or a belief that is a lie, we can rebuke it, we can choose not to believe that, and we can introduce something that is a thought that is going to serve us, right? Because we want that T.F.A.R cycle to be reinforcing and pushing us towards that super unknown goal. If we're not policing our thoughts, here's what we're actually doing. We're not actually thinking anymore if we're not policing our thoughts. The T.F.A.R cycle is just running rampant at that point, and it's just reinforcing itself. It's like think of just being a roller coaster that's gone off the rails. It's out of control at this point. All right, and it's the inmates that are starting to run the asylum at this point. Really, what's taking place oftentimes is we're not thinking new things. We're just defaulting back to a program, a set of neural pathways that have already been created in our brains, and they're there, right? And we're just activating those, but there's no new thought that's taking place. We're operating off of the thoughts that we chose to believe sometime in our past. And so a lot of our thoughts are not even thoughts that we're thinking, consciously choosing to think, but they're thoughts that we're thinking based on a choice that we made sometime in the past. And to the extent that we do this, we're literally living in the past, because it's going to kick off the same T.F.A.R cycle that we had in the past. This is where we go back to that quote by Einstein where he says we can't solve today's problems by using the same thoughts that we used when we created them. So, if we want to have new results, we want to achieve that super unknown goal, we have to use our will here, fellows, to choose what thoughts we are going to receive, and those thoughts that we are going to renounce, those thoughts we are going to rebuke, those thoughts and lies that we're going to say, no, I choose not to believe that. And you can't. And when you do that, you're in control of your circumstances. You're in control of your environment. You've got power at that point, and you're not a victim to anybody's circumstances. What's your T.F.A.R cycle doing for you guys today? Go into the worksheets here and start to go through. I've got kind of a worksheet that's set up for going through one particular T.F.A.R cycle. Don't think of a ton of thoughts that you want to put on trial here, or a ton of results in your life that you want to put on trial. Just pick one. And then you can use that worksheet to go through that process again of doing kind of the reverse engineering from your results, going back to your behaviors, to your feelings, to those thoughts. Okay? You can reverse engineer, and then you can decide which new thoughts you want to introduce to cause those feelings, those actions, and those results that you want, those super unknown results. All right, fellas, great concepts here. We're going to continue to build on this throughout the week. Continue to persist in your thought exercises and those feeling exercises. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the power of the emotion of gratitude and putting ourselves in a place of gratitude and what that does for us. See you tomorrow, fellas.